Uh, we want to welcome all our speakers today. We have Dr. Ashwin and Mr. Nick, who will be our international speakers. And we have some local speakers from a number of Saudi universities that we will participate in this event. It's we are very happy here to welcome all of you, and we hope that we have a very knowledgeable discussions that we can share the ideas and the experience. First of all, we want to start with Dr. Ashwin Fernandez. Dr. Ashwin, he is from Regional Director. You can start. Dr. Majin, if you could give him to be able to share screen if he has any presentation.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Ayman, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you so very much for this invitation to speak to Marco at Advance, I think the company which is hosting this. So thank you so much for inviting us. And let me just share my screen very quickly and just to verify. Yeah. So you should be able to see my screen. What I have are some limited slides which I prepared on the role of academic leadership, or I would say leadership in high national rankings. And it's basically leading with an iron fist, and which is supposedly the recipe for success in rankings if done correct. Very quickly, the mission of QS, which is to empower motivated people around the world to fulfill their potential by fostering international mobility, educational achievement, and career development. We are a global higher education organization, most popular brand for engaging with students, universities, and government leaders. The kind of traffic we get on the websites, the kind of academic response for the surveys, our international student surveys we do, and several numbers actually makes up a very influential cohort or influential number of people spread across different stakeholders which are involved and which you are also involved with in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Of course, we produce the World University Rankings, which is the tip of the iceberg, and we do much more than the rankings. We, of course, engage with industry, we engage with students, we engage with the government, and the rankings, particularly the world ranking in this case, is an IREG approved ranking, which is the International Rankings Expert Group in Warsaw, which looks and oversees different ranking agencies, and we're happy that our ranking has passed the transparency and accountability test at IREG. So besides the rankings, we also offer analytics. We have different other services, including QS Stars, and everything we do is backed up with data, and definitely keeping in mind the most important stakeholder, which is students, are the heart of what we do anything at QS. Of course, I would love to talk about the rankings and the methodology, but I'm going to limit this to just one slide today, and you can probably take a screenshot of this for reference, or I'm happy to share the slides. QS has been doing the World University Rankings since 2004 and the Arab Region University Rankings since 2014. Different methodologies for both these rankings, a very robust cohort. The last World University Ranking had 1,300 universities. The Arab Region Ranking has about 180 universities. Data collection, as you can see, is from several sources, including academic reputation, employer reputation, we're looking at research, we're looking at internationalization of your research, faculty-student ratios, staff with PhD, and internationalization of your student and faculty. And very particularly for the Arab region, we're looking at the web impact from Webometrics. Now, why is this slide important is because any changes as leaders, which you would do, and I see some very, very familiar faces here from different universities that have worked together in the past. Any change you do to any of these, the impact of these would take probably several months, several years to take effect. And in this regard, it's very important that you set the right leadership tone and the right leadership message and have the right actions so that it'll have a better impact on the university rankings. Now, when we look at the Arab region, we can see that in the world last year's ranking, we had 75 Arab region universities in this ranking. Out of the 1,300 we rank globally. Now, our host country today, Saudi Arabia, has 13 universities in the world ranking. The highest is 109. So very close to the 100th mark is the King Abdulaziz University. So every year we include new universities. Now, the number I'm showing you is just to show the international competition. Now, why is this important? Now, let me take you from the Saudi Arabia performance into a more global performance. When we look at the UNESCO data by GDP, purchasing power parity, we can see that 30 countries make up 100 universities in the 2022 QS World University Ranking. And this could be similar for other rankings as well. So a very limited number of countries make up a majority of the universities in the ranking. When we go deeper to look at R&D spending, we can see that 20 countries make up 700 universities by R&D spending in the QS 2022 QS World University Ranking. Now, is this a coincidence? Because out of the 1,300 universities we rank in the world, 97 countries are represented. But for 20 countries to make up more than half, there is something exceptional going on in the leadership, not just of the university, but also of the country. Now, there was a study done recently, and the study, I'm quoting my dear friend Amr Adli, who was the former deputy minister in Egypt, and he has done some research, and I've read it. Now, there's a direct impact of quality higher education. And of course, you can measure quality higher education through rankings and accreditation, because when you have good universities, you'll have more international students. When you have more international students, you have the economy doing better because there is foreign reserves coming in. Also, having good universities will have national students being highly qualified and going out internationally, which also supports foreign reserves coming back into the country. So there is a direct impact of good quality institutions equals to better ranking of institutions. Of course, beyond this picture, there is accountability, there is recognition, there is student mobility and performance improvement. So all of these directly connect into ranking, and all of these are only possible with good leadership. FYI, the Global Innovation Index, which comes out of Cornell from Sumitra Datta, who does it, looks at the global innovation, and the QS World University Ranking data makes up one of the measures to look at how countries are being innovative. So definitely the rankings data goes beyond just student use into other areas at the same time. So let me get into what is that which makes universities successful, and what is that which you all could all use in your leadership stance. Now, we all understand that any actions you take definitely have a long-term impact. So the very first ingredient, so there are 6 ingredients I have put together, or 6 broad areas which are very important for university leaders to follow. The first most important ingredient is to be agile, is to have agility. Now, this agility agility has several areas. One is in technology, using the best technological advancements. Having beyond technology, also the emotional agility to manage the thoughts and emotions in a very complex environment, because as a leader, you will come across various circumstances. So being emotionally agile is important. Being also creatively agile, able to solve problems outside of the box with awareness and reflective judgment is important. And that means doing beyond what the conventional means are. Also being innovatively agile, so exhibiting a natural curiosity about the environment, introducing and encouraging definitely new ideas, and making those new ideas take shape with speed. And that's important. So agility beyond just technology, and further on, having stakeholder agility. So identifying who are your key stakeholders in the university. They could be your students, your faculty, the industry, and working with them to manage different perspectives on a very proactive basis. And finally, having the synergy, so establishing an empathy in the relations, resolving conflict even before they come up. So being agile, and foreseeing how harmful can different individuals be and how you're going to handle them. So agility is one of the most important, because any decisions you might take to increase research, to increase reputation, to increase your student numbers, have a direct impact on everybody. So agility is important. The second is keeping excellence at the heart of what you do. So for excellence, you need to have strategy. So while being agile, if it is not combined with a strategy that makes bold early moves, you are not going to win. And strategy is important. Alignment of the institution, which combines agility, speed, and stability, is also important for an institution as a leader to make those decisions which will impact the institution. And going beyond that, managing the team and processes. So putting the dynamics and acting on basically slow performers and weight the strong performing areas and pushing those slow performers ahead, and being results oriented. And that's where excellence comes really into play, is when you operate looking at the results, looking at what is the return on investment on everything you do as a leader. So using that system to reinforce and lock the changes you would do as a leader. Entire system with you on this journey. So everybody has to understand, why are you taking those decisions? Why are you increasing faculty numbers? Why are you recruiting more students from abroad? So getting everybody's, especially the board members, support in this excellence is required. So the second ingredient, as I mentioned, excellence. I think there is somebody speaking. Yeah. The third is having growth at the center of what you do. So while you're being agile, while you are having excellence as part of your thought process, is looking at growth first, and second, and third, and fourth, and fifth. So raising the bar. So for example, an institution produces one paper per faculty member in a year. How are you going to make that to 2 in a year, 3 in a year? How are you going to involve those without PhD to also produce? How are you going to involve your students to be part of this journey as well? So growth is important, and raising the bar is also important. And having a portfolio of initiatives, basically backing those which are risk takers that go beyond the conventional, and of course infusing purpose in the institution. So why is growth required? Is basically to push the institution ahead and driving that to the people involved. It is also important that once you think of growth, you give power to the front line. You give power to the people who are going to be doing that work. So putting people forward, giving the control is very important, because if you want to produce more, if you want to brand more, the faculty, the deans, the directors, everyone needs to be at the forefront and pushing the same agenda. Also, I think, fights for growth, avoiding basically short-term growth, but looking at beyond that into long-term growth by breaking down any internal barriers that might affect it. And I think the final part in growth is being perfectionist, and not everybody, and there are some institutions I can name around the world who have done this very well, and that's why you see a lot of Southeast Asian institutions doing so well, is because of the perfectionist feeling and the kind of the methods which the president or the vice presidents or everybody in the institutions use, but definitely using that with insights, with data at the same time. So the third one was growth. The fourth is governance. Now, while you're looking at everything, there has to be a good governance practice, and that requires a leader to be courageous, independent, brave, and if it means letting the low performers or the ones who do not perform, letting them go, or making those decisions on contract renewals, or looking at cutting spending where it's not having any benefit. So courageousness is one of the areas in the governance which is required for being for having good leadership, which will impact the rankings, of course. Having self-awareness and being yourself in throughout the process of good governance, openness to change. So while being courageous, also I think it's very much connected on the process to change and driving the people with you on piloting new and innovative ideas and changes in how reporting worked previously and under new leadership. Governance also should be backed with sound financial management. As I mentioned, you might need to take a tough decision on cutting funding, and that's what you have to do, and the good governance, and looking at the growth and the agility at the same time of projects. Temperance, being prudent, patient, calm, principled, and self-controlled in a position as a president. And definitely benchmarking. And I think I can't underestimate the power of benchmarking. So as university leaders, you have to know what are other institutions doing for best practices and how you can emulate that for creating a robust system and having a long-term monitoring and evaluation framework. Also looking at commonality. While you're governing the institution, how do you align the interests of your faculty and those within the organization who are going with you? So how do you tolerate people? How do you have the risk appetite and the strategy? And how do you manage different kinds of people while using different tactics to be able to have better governance, which in turn should impact the rankings at the end? And finally is having clear roles and responsibilities. And I think as the institution grows, you will see that it is so much more important to have the controls as well as to pass on leadership down the hierarchy. So governance is actually a very important area while looking at leadership for improving rankings. And the fifth one is collaboration. Now, all of these four I have mentioned cannot be possible, and you've seen at every point it is about people, about how do you manage the people and how do you manage change and so on. So whatever you do in governance, agility, and growth has to come by playing a proactive role in what you're doing to commercialize the results, to make them worthwhile, to make them understood before they are actually being implemented. Having collaboration frameworks to understand and sustain long-term collaboration using perhaps technology, using, as I mentioned earlier, using emotions, and how do you manage that across the institution. And again, a collaboration platform using technology, reaching out to different people. How do you connect? How do you network with everybody, not just internally perhaps, but also externally? We mentioned board members earlier. We mentioned employees and faculty members earlier. And information sharing both ways, talking as well as listening. So collaboration happens both ways. Diversity, how are you going to include everybody in this collaboration journey? So, maximizing the diversity of the dialogue, and how do you act as a representative, keeping the interest and integrity of the institution in mind? So while you're doing all of this collaboration, you have to ensure that you are seen as a representative of the different stakeholders in communication. Colluding with the team for best results. At the end of the day, what you want is to take the institution forward, and that's exactly the motive of everybody. And that can also happen with more research and collaboration with external stakeholders, but not forgetting international institutions, industries, and so on. So I have talked about 5 ingredients so far, but there is one more I would like to add, and that is one of the most important ingredient in not just leadership, but across whatever you do, and that is patience. The idea and the concept of looking at this long term. So whatever you do in the 5 ingredients, keep patience at the heart of it, because rankings will not take direct impact within the next 1 month, 5 months, 6 months. There is a long-term horizon looking at rankings. So any impact, any work you do, it'll have a long-term impact, a long-term horizon of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 plus years. So I've tried to focus on the 6 ingredients here. And I think at the end of the day, rankings are definitely not the goal, but a trophy, I would say, for a job well done. And definitely rankings are not something where you should base your institute strategy on. But as I said, get the right things in the right place at the right time. And that will have an impact on the rankings. The rankings are definitely not the goal, but the outcome of what you as leaders are trying to achieve. It is a report card. It is a thermometer to see what you're doing, and as you progress ahead. So with that, I think I have just kind of finished it well in time for the presentation time allotted to me. So thank you so much for listening, and please do feel free to connect on email or on LinkedIn. And happy to answer any questions now or have any discussion to this roundtable. Thank you so much, Ayman, for inviting me. It's a really pleasure and honor to be here with you.
Thank you, Dr. Ashwin. It was a very fruitful presentation. We believe that we have many information that will help all the participants here. If I could ask one more question for you, what are the most challenges that faced the universities here in Saudi Arabia and GCC regarding to improve the ranking or related to the leadership, to the academic leadership, from your perspective?
Well, I think that there's a challenge between providing for a world-class system and also educating the masses. So what is the characteristics of a top institution? They do good research, they have international students, they are well established for a period of time. So I think what we are seeing is a very positive impact in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. But while trying to build a knowledge economy, universities are already aiming are already in the top ranking. And I think we can see King Abdulaziz is already inching towards the top 100 with 109 right now. And several institutions are in the top 500. So I think the biggest challenge is that there is competition from rising Asia. There's, of course, people who have started off many more years ago, and there have been plans been put in, leadership in place for a long time. So the competition of catch up is taking a long time. And while we're doing that, many other countries are having national projects. And I can definitely say that the Saudi 2030 vision, as it aims to make 5 institutions in the top 100, is actually coming close to reality with what we're doing. But at the same time, with global competition, the focus, being agile is required, understanding and pushing the performance metrics on the faculty members is, I think, not a challenge, but is something to be looked upon in the next few years. And finally, the brand. While the kingdom is opening up, there is a great brand being built. How can university leaders use that opportunity to start promoting themselves globally, inviting international research collaborations, looking at how they can host different programs in here and so on. So I think there is a lot positive happening, but with looking at the ingredients, how leaders could adapt that for the future growth is, I think, is something to be watched.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ashwin. Now we will go to Mr. Nick. We will go to Mr. Nick Davis. He is the Commercial Director in the Time Higher Education. He worked with many universities in UK, Middle East, North Africa, and Asia. I want to welcome him, and he can start now. Welcome. You can share screen if there is any presentation.
Thank you so much, Ayman. Absolutely. Let me just share my screen. And hopefully everyone can see that okay. So thank you, first of all, Ayman, thank you so much for having me and for everyone joining us here today. It really is greatly appreciated. As Ayman mentioned, my name is Nick Davis, Commercial Director for Europe, Middle East and Africa here at the Times Higher Education. So what I'm going to look at today is to start off with a couple of different ranking methodologies, because I think this will put into the frame the conversation we're having about what excellence means and how you can achieve rankings excellence in many different ways. So we'll look at methodologies for the world university rankings, but we'll also look at the impact rankings, Times Higher Education sustainability rankings. We will then look at some achievements that Saudi Arabia have achieved to date. I think it's important to see where we stand now and celebrate some wonderful performances so far as we look to the future. And then we'll look at a case study of a university in achieving these higher international rankings and really how the academic leadership enabled the university to do that. We'll then finish off with some questions, of course. So let's start with those university rankings. So starting off with the World University Rankings, it's important to remember the data we're looking at is incredibly vast and incredibly sound. So we're looking at something akin to 108 million citations analysed, 14.4 million research publications. We have 22,000 reputation survey respondents. We've got over 2,000 institutions submitting their data to us, of which over 1,600 got ranked last year from 99 countries around the world. We are sure we're going to be getting that one additional country and making 100 this year. And how we take that data, how we use that data, first of all, we get it from 3 individual data sources. First of all, the institutional portal in which universities supply their data to us. Secondly, our reputation survey, and for the first time this year, we've taken that reputation survey in-house. We used to run it through our partners elsewhere, but we've taken that in-house with a view to growing it significantly. And finally, we do rely on Elsevier and their Scopus database for our bibliometric data. And this is a Sankey diagram. So this shows you how that data comes from those 3 sources through to the 13 metrics. We do believe the 13 metrics we have in place at the moment are the most robust methodology out there. However, I would point out that will be changing next year as we bring in the World University Rankings 3.0, as we look to get more granular and more insight into what really makes a top quality university. It's important to remember that when we're looking at the World University Rankings, we're talking about what makes a top quality research focused university. And that really comes across in the weight you can see given to the field weighted citation metric, as well as to research reputation. Really, these are our research rankings. But you can see how those 13 metrics feed through to our 5 pillars of citation, industry income, international outlook, research and teaching, ending up with a university rank. The data that we ask those universities for, we're looking for student data, degree data, academic data, and of course, income data as well. For the reputation survey, although we're asking for various contextualizing questions, the primary questions we're asking is for active academics. I'm more than happy to answer questions on how we select these academics, but we're talking about active research publishing academics. We're asking them to choose up to 15 institutions around the world that they believe produce the best research within their subject area. And the same question for teaching. So those 15 institutions that they believe provide the best teaching within their subject area for their students. Finally, that bibliometric data source, of course, Elsevier's Scopus database. We do take that data at 11 broad subject levels. We in fact take it at 31 discrete subject levels, but for the purposes of the rankings, we look at those 11 broad ones. We look at 5 document types: articles, article reviews, conference proceedings, books, and book chapters, and across a 5-year window. It's very comforting to hear Ashwin talk about time and the time it takes for change to happen and patience. We are looking at an extended period of time, so absolutely right. It's going to take time to see real change come into play. And in terms of the World University Rankings released, the 2022 version released last September, we can see that Saudi Arabia had 15 institutions ranked, which made them the 27th most represented country within those rankings. And in fact, as we'll see later on, there are other universities who are submitting their data who don't quite meet those thresholds. A quick reminder on those thresholds, we do ask that institutions are not single subject, they do teach at an undergraduate level, and that they produce 1,000 papers over a 5-year period with a lower limit of 150 papers per year. But what about those universities who perhaps don't match the model of a research-intensive university, for whom the World University Rankings and perhaps even our new Arab University Rankings, which again come with a research threshold of 500 papers, what if those rankings aren't right for them? Back 4 years ago now, in 2017-18, THE ideated the idea of an impact rankings, a sustainability rankings, an opportunity to recognize universities for the fantastic work they do in the realm of sustainability. And to do this, we use the framework of the UN SDGs. And we built these rankings around the 4 aspects of the theory of change. These being research, how an institution is conducting research and trying to challenge or break down the grand challenges the world is facing. Stewardship, and how they're looking after their own community, in this instance for SDG 2, Zero Hunger, how they're dealing with student hunger. Outreach, so how they're dealing with the wider national community, in this case on national hunger. And teaching as well, the number of graduates they're producing in each, in these particular subject areas. So to bring these rankings together, we took those 17 UN SDGs, we brought together 17 SDGs of our own. As you can see, we have very similar numbers of metrics and measurements that we brought together to really assess the quality of sustainability amongst these universities. Participation was absolutely vital for this. As I've mentioned, we know that not every university fits the model of a World University Rankings ranked university. So participation, inclusion, and equity were massively important to us here. This means that we didn't set a research threshold to participate, and that we minimized the number of SDGs we would ask a university to submit to be seen in the overall rankings. We settled on just SDG 17, the compulsory SDG, and 3 of their choosing. We also thought very carefully on metrics, and in fact brought together a panel of experts from around the world to advise us, and it's an advisory panel, on these rankings and how we should be assessing universities in this space. And finally, a quick look at how we bring that total rankings together. As I said, SDG 17 plus 3 of your choosing. And what this has meant is that we've seen a rapid growth in the number of universities participating in our rankings. And we're starting to see universities who perhaps thought they could never be seen in a THE rankings, working with us and participating. We can see 22 institutions in Saudi Arabia, so already 7 more than are in the World University Rankings, in the impact rankings. So it's an idea that I'd like you to keep in mind as we start talking about what it means for academic leadership to support higher international rankings, but there's not necessarily one higher international ranking or one international ranking that they should be looking at. Some quick achievements for Saudi Arabia. Again, I think it's important to recognize the quality of the institutions that we see within the country at the moment. And the journey that has brought us to this point, the last 5 years have been pivotal to the country. And arguably, a lot of those tricks of the trade, a lot of those ideas around what good leadership looks like are already happening within the country. So just to reiterate some of these numbers, we can see those 22 universities in the latest impact rankings, 15 in last year's were. But we can see the rate of growth within the impact rankings and within the World University Rankings within the country is far outstripping those global averages. And it's not just participation that's going up, but also performance. We saw KAU, and sorry KAU, colleagues who may be on the call, I'll try not to make you blush, but I will be talking more about you in just a minute. We've seen them break into the top 200, the first Arab university from the Arab world to do so. But it's not just the top university that's performing. We've seen the 7 institutions below either being new entrants to the rankings or those that are rising up in the rankings. So phenomenal performance at the top end for Saudi Arabian institutions. But we're seeing this throughout as well, and we're seeing other universities entering these rankings, and we can see those list of reporter institutions just below, many of whom are just on the cusp of coming into these rankings. We're very excited to see how they perform when they do. And we can start to see areas of performances which Saudi Arabian institutions are already outperforming the rest of the world. So we are looking here at box and whiskers plots. For those of you who are not familiar with box and whiskers plots, the box in the middle that you see is the interquartile range. So the 25th to the 75th quartile, the line in the middle being the median score. The whiskers coming out, or the lines coming out, show the top and the bottom of the distribution. These are capped at 1.5 times the interquartile range. So we may, and we will in fact over the next couple of slides, see some outlier performance as well. But we can see here in the turquoise on the left-hand side, we can see some areas in which Saudi institutions are already performing very, very well. Income to staff, we can see, is an area in which they're performing well as student-staff ratios. Citation, we know there has been a huge drive amongst Saudi institutions to produce high quality research over the past 5 years. And we can see that is very much the case here, particularly with that upper interquartile, so the 50th to the 75th. We can also see international staff and international co-authorship, very strong areas for the country, though there is a question around international students. And I think as we look to the future of Saudi Arabia and Saudi Arabian higher education, there is a question as to how they will attract an international community to come and study there. We also start to see areas of disciplinary excellence amongst Saudi institutions. Physical sciences and engineering, which of course we would imagine traditionally very strong within the country. But we can also see, and more recently, we see business and economics and social sciences really coming to their own amongst Saudi institutions. I wanted to show this slide just to bring up the idea that we often look at rankings, and I think, Ashwin, again, thank you very much. I think you said it very well. People often look at a rankings position and think that's what we're aiming for, that's it. That's not necessarily it, and often rankings positions can be quite misleading. We see here on the left-hand side the ranking change. On average, the red line being the world average. Of course, as our distribution of universities grows, the mean rank will come down. But we can see the mean rank for Saudi institutions, and that has gone up over the past 5 years, gone up quite significantly by, on average, 155 positions. But we can see on the right-hand side here, there has actually been an increase in score amongst global institutions over that same time period, although it has shown as a decrease in rank. Fortunately for Saudi Arabian institutions, we've seen that increase in rank and score. And in fact, if we look at this next slide, we can see that in fact, Saudi Arabia has seen the largest change, positive change in score over the past 5 years. So we've seen some phenomenal growth from those universities. But how have they done it? And particularly, how has the best university in the country, the best university in the region done it? A quick case study on our friends at KAU. This is a quick snapshot of KAU's performance over the past 8 years or so. By the way, all of the slides you're seeing here are data taken from THE Data Points, our analytical and benchmarking tool. So we can see actually all the way back in 2016, KAU were performing 251 to 300 in the world. If we look just a couple of years further back, in 2014, they were actually ranking 351 to 400 out of 400 universities. So really at the bottom of our global rankings. And in fact, the year after that, they dropped out of those rankings. So they were an unranked institution about 8 or 9 years ago. So although it might not look like a huge change since 2016, considering the growth of these rankings over time, really the movement we've seen from KAU has been phenomenal. But how have they done it? I would like to draw attention to what I like to think of as balance in the way that KAU have gone about their ranking strategy. And their ranking strategy, as we'll speak about in a little bit, is really informed by their institutional strategy. There is no drive for a particular metric to be 100%. We can see here that quite often the black dot representing KAU is not the strongest metric score within the country, but they've achieved a great balance across everything that they have, everything that they do as an institution, and this really comes through within these rankings. Just to briefly touch on the impact rankings as well, once again, we can see a phenomenal performance, scoring 97.5 out of 100. As an overall score and ranking joint 4th in the world out of 1,400 universities ranked overall. So wonderful performance. And again, this really speaks to the balance that KAU have achieved. They've have about a half a dozen or so top 5 and top 10 performances across the individual SDGs as well. So aligned with that balance, how did the academic leadership enable KAU to succeed here? What was their framework for success? And there's 4 points that I'll look at today. Engagement, understanding, alignment, and implementation. When I talk about engagement, what we're talking about, we can talk about engagement on a number of different levels. First and foremost, engagement with ranking organizations is absolutely vital for any institution looking to perform well within these rankings. Whether you're talking to myself, talking to Ashwin, talking to our friends over at Shanghai or US World News, engaging with those organizations, not just understanding what we're talking about, but feeding in yourself is vitally, vitally important. I've got down here acting as a critical friend. And I believe, in fact, it was back at the summit held in Jeddah with KAU back in March 2018, that the idea of THE first launching an Arab university rankings, which came to pass last year, was brought up. THE prides itself on being a mirror to the academic community, and we want to ensure that we are representing and showing the community properly in that way. But the feedback that we were getting is that there were areas of our rankings that didn't speak to the mission of universities in the Arab world. So really becoming part of that community is vitally important. It would be the first piece of advice I give to any university leader. Engage with us, engage with our friends, our competitors, engage with other thought leaders in the space, and make sure you are vocal with the compliments, if you will, but also with the criticisms for our rankings, because these rankings are built for you and they should be working for you as well. The second is understanding. So comprehending the methodology, as we've briefly run through, is very important, and is why THE run dozens, if not hundreds, of masterclasses and rankings workshops all throughout the year to ensure that data providers, yes, but also institutional leaders understand what we are trying to achieve through our rankings. So that comprehension of methodology is so important. But going deeper than that is far more important. It's something that KAU and the leadership team, Dr. Amin in particular, has done incredibly well. So understanding those inputs, understanding the scores that come out of them, again, the scores that sit beneath those ranks that sometimes don't marry up, and understanding the global standards. What should you be looking to achieve? What are the best universities in the world doing? What is the gold standards, and what does it look like? That's the level of understanding that an institutional leader needs to really improve and achieve those high international rankings. And probably more importantly, it's about utilizing these rankings as a framework rather than a scoreboard. And this brings me on to my third point, alignment. We've seen many universities over the years try and use a rankings goal as their strategy. They will explicitly name a position within those rankings that they want to achieve. This is not the way forward, certainly as far as we're concerned. We don't recommend that an institution builds a strategy around the rankings, but more uses the insight and the data from those rankings to assess themselves against their strategic criteria. We also recognize that these rankings will rarely ever cover. The rankings are, I hope, Ashwin, you would agree with me, rankings inherently are blunt instruments. We are never going to be able to put a rankings assessor in every classroom around the world and have a comprehensive overview of teaching. So we'll never be able to speak about absolutely every area of a university. But the ones that we can, we recommend that university leaders reconcile the two, reconcile their strategy and institutional excellence that they're moving towards with the rankings, but also accepting where you can't. For instance, community impact. This is KAU's strategy overview that we can see here. Community impact, yes, there may be some positive impact within the impact rankings for the work they're doing here, but actually it's likely that if they're insisting that everyone within the university commit some time to supporting community development work, actually that's going to be taken away from their research. So it may have a negative impact on the world university rankings. It's also incredibly important to remember that rankings can and will change. If you build your strategy on a rankings and the methodology changes the year after, you will find yourself in a very difficult position. So really, I think this point is most important for any institutional leader. Use the rankings as a framework, take the information that you can, but don't tie yourself to any single one. And also find the one that works best for you. It may be the World University rankings, it may be the impact rankings, it may be someone else's. And finally, implementation. One thing that, and I'm going to talk about a couple of pieces of work that we've been very fortunate to conduct with KAU, but one thing that the leadership have done there, and perhaps if Ashwin's talking about the iron fist, then maybe this is the velvet glove technique that I'm talking about here, a slightly softer approach. The team at KAU have provided wonderful oversight to all of the work that their rankings division have done, but they've also provided them autonomy, allowed them to go and work on projects and make decisions, and also feed their insight into the university's broader decision-making process. So whether this is conducting bespoke research projects with THE's consultancy team, whether this is launching brand enhancement campaigns, hosting sector-leading events, and we look forward very much to being back in Jeddah over the coming years again, or even attracting top quality talent to join the institution. They were given the authority and the guidance to conduct this work. So that would be my parting comment. Give trust and give faith to those people who work with this data and understand the rankings best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Nick. This is very excellent presentation and very nice. We will keep the questions for later. We will let the other speaker to participate. Then if anyone has any question, he can ask by the end, if you allow us. So now we will go to Dr. Professor Marjan Al-Shahrani. He is Deputy King Khalid University for Development and Quality. Welcome, Professor Marjan.
Yes, hi, how are you? My pleasure to be with you tonight. Is it okay?
Okay.
Can you hear?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, I'd like to introduce tonight two main objects, the role of the academic leaders in ranking. As you saw, and what are the importance of the role of the leaders or the role of the academic leaders in launching or concerning about academic or international ranking. As you know that the importance of this, it comes from the Vision 2030 for the government when they said that 5 universities will be among the top 200 universities. And this has become a goal for all of the institutions in Saudi Arabia to achieve this goal. Based on this, that as my friend said, for the QS, the number of university increased from 2019 until 2022 in participating in QS from 9 universities up to 14 in QS. In times, the number increased from 6 universities up to 15. From SDG, the number increased from 3 universities in 2019 up to 2022. These are the important and the participation of this thing. What are the outcomes of participating in this income for the Saudi university? Of course, it will show you the university and the best practices in the international university. Based on this best practices, all of the universities, they can join and apply this best practices to be in the guidelines for the future. Also, it will increase the quality of teaching and learning. It will attract the qualified teaching staff concerning about the ratio between students and the teaching staff. All of these issues related to the quality of teaching. Also, it will increase the quality of research. It will be from the top, in the top journals, and it will be published in the well-known and worldwide, pool of research or publication like ISI and Nature and all of these things. It will also open the door for a lot of, cooperation with international, university well-known, and it will like teaching staff exchange, student exchange, and all of this experience through the cooperation and building the relationship or bridges with the international university. Also, it will be reflected on the strategy of our university that will be embedded according to the international framework and the international guidelines. And would attract and make a kind of mixing experience by using the internalization, by attracting more qualified teaching staff from overseas or from the well-recognized university, and also attract many international students to join our university. These are the main issue that gives us the importance of the ranking for our university. And from my point of view, the major issue that help the university student to participate in this ranking is the academic accreditation. Based on the academic, those universities who got the academic accreditation, this will open the door for them to participate in the international ranking and build and raise the trust for all of these universities to participate in ranking, and also to show them the best practices and the roadmap to participate in this kind of ranking. The major issue and the final advice that I would like to show that we should not deal with accreditation or ranking as a goal. It will be as a tool to attract us to the quality. We should concern about the quality of teaching, the quality of research, and the quality of teaching staff, and the quality of our programs and curriculums, and also the quality of our infrastructure related to the learning resources, and also research centers, instead of looking for a number in ranking and forget the quality and the quality issue that you should care. The quality of our income, the quality of our teaching, and the quality of our academic outcomes, and the quality of our graduates. These are the most important issue that I would like to do. If you apply all these kind of quality and take care of incomes and process and the outcomes, the ranking will be reflected automatically. The ranking will be reflected as a goal, and it will be reflected automatically to be reflected in our. I am really so thankful for you and for your company, and I'm really got a lot of benefits from the participant, and I'm waiting for the other speakers to get more experience and listen to a fruitful information for our future, for our university. Thank you so much for giving me the chance, and have a good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Marjan. It's highly appreciated for your participation with us. Now we will go to Professor Suzanne Bardisi. Professor Suzanne, she's the Deputy of Quality and Development College at Al University. Welcome, Professor Suzanne.
Okay, assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for making me a professor. I hope it will come true very soon. So thank you for having me in this event, and I'm really glad to be among these highly distinguished participants. The issue or the topic I was asked to talk about was about how university rankings and accreditation are related, and whether really one of them is more important than the other. I think this is kind of a very delicate topic, a very delicate matter, and because currently in Saudi Arabia and in the whole of the world, both systems, the accreditation system and the world ranking system or the university ranking systems, are important. We can see this because both both systems are a part of the Vision 2030 in Saudi Arabia. So one of the goals of the vision is to have universities among the best, the top 100. And the recently launched Human Capacity Development Program aims to have all the academic programs at universities accredited by 2025. So really, all universities should be working on both systems at the same time. Now, university rankings is an old system. I mean, we all know when we used to apply to go and study abroad, what we looked at was the university ranking and how the subject matter was ranked in that university, and that was actually the best guidance students had. So the university ranking system is an old one. Maybe accreditation is slightly newer, and but as we said, both of them go hand in hand. I really like what was said like a few minutes ago, that really accreditation might actually lead to better university rankings. And I liked what Ashwin said. He said good quality universities mean better rankings. So I will say, maybe my next point now is what distinguishes accreditation and why accreditation is very important. What makes it a little bit different from university rankings. Now, maybe the top value of accreditation is that it adds strength to the graduate's degree. We can see this. There are several examples, but two examples which we know is that the engineering programs accredited by Abbott are much stronger and internationally widely accepted. Students can transfer from their home country university to go to an international university and have their courses maybe recognized and equalized. More recently, we have had this development that the medical students cannot go and study in the United States unless they have graduated from programs which are accredited by institutions, or sorry, by accrediting agencies recognized by WIFME, which is why now the NCAA has been working towards being recognized by WIFME, and it has recently got that recognition. So accreditation adds value to the student's degree. It makes it maybe more attractive to future employers, gives him or her better opportunities at higher studies. I think another value of accreditation is that it kind of reaches a wider spectrum of the people at the university. Whereas maybe the university can get by with maybe a selected people working on rankings, but really each and every faculty member should be working towards accreditation. Each and every employee, each and every student should actually does have a role, at least in surveys. So accreditation is wider in that aspect. Also, well, I liked what Professor Nick said about, he said that we cannot go into each classroom. Well, accreditation does that. It kind of goes into the classrooms. It goes into the small details and to the nitty-gritties of things. So in that way, really accreditation looks more closely at the quality of education. So when a program is academically accredited, that usually means that the education that the student has received is of high quality. There is also an interesting point, which is that the different accreditation agencies around the world, even if they, on the face of it, even if it looks like they have different standards, but if you look deeply, they all agree on the same elements. So the same elements of quality. They all promote the continuous improvement. They all kind of promote similar aspects. Whereas there are like different aspects are promoted in different university rankings, as particularly we have in this new development at the World University Ranking, the Times, and the different matrices that are introduced. So, well, the two systems are slightly different, but I think they are complementary. I really so much liked what Ashwin said when he said good quality universities lead to better ranking. So if we go after quality, which eventually leads to accreditation, that hopefully will lead us to better rankings. Finally, I would like just to say a few words about the role of the leaders in promoting accreditation and quality. We've heard, I mean, so many of the issues that I've heard in both Ashwin and Nick's talks about the excellence, the growth, the governance, the flexibility. All of them also apply to how leaders can promote the culture of accreditation. But to the heart of it, I think, is that leaders should really believe in quality. Just like what Ashwin said, that, ranking is a trophy. Well, accreditation is not just a trophy. You have to work hard. So if leaders believe in that, if they believe that you really have to work and that this is important, this promotes quality, this improves the output, it improves the chances of the graduates. If they believe in that, then they have to promote the culture, and they have to spread the culture among the people. Well, I think Ashwin also said that we have resistance to the culture, and one of the issues that he mentioned was educating the masses. This is also related to quality and accreditation, and maybe this is more of an issue in quality and accreditation because, as I said, everybody has to be involved. So really spreading the culture is essential. It's really important to promoting quality. So if leaders really believe in the importance of quality, and they promote the culture, and also they have to facilitate the efforts, because really it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of time of the faculty members and everybody. So facilitating the providing all the facilities, providing all the support is really important. But all of that doesn't come unless the leader really believes in the importance of quality and accreditation. Again, I'm emphasizing that the two of them, quality and accreditation and university rankings, go hand in hand. And nothing goes to show, nothing like shows this better than the recent Saudi ranking system, which is also promoted by the accreditation agency. So the two of them really cannot be separated. They have to go hand in hand. Well, the goal of each one is maybe slightly different. World University Ranking is about how the world sees the university image. The quality is about the quality of education, gives more value to the degrees, but both of them really go hand in hand, and they should go hand in hand, and they should support each other. So again, I would like to thank you for this opportunity, and I hope, inshallah, that all of our Saudi universities will progress even further in the rankings, and will have more accomplishments in quality and accreditation. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Suzanne, for this participation. I want now to welcome Dr. Sami Al-Shihri. He is the General Supervisor of the International Ranking Unit in the King Khalid University. So welcome, Dr. Sami.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for having me today. It's my pleasure to be with all the leaders in Saudi's and international ranking. Today, I would like to talk about the international ranking units in King Khalid University, because it's the first unit that has been established in all Saudi's university. But before I go deep in that, I just want to give the listeners some background about how King Khalid University see the international ranking. As we all know that in the context of the globalization of the educational market, competition between universities around the world is becoming more intense, and achieving leadership becomes a priority for all. The importance of international university ranking has grown significantly in the context of the globalization of higher education. Those rankings show the world's leading universities' potential and performance, as well reflecting their advantages and authorities at the global level. Also, I would like to mention early, as Dr. Merzin said, that in King Khalid University, the international rankings are not a goal. It is a tool. However, increasing positions in such rankings are one of the forms of leadership in the global educational service market. So we believe that rankings are considered one of the foundation of building a development strategies. and international university rankings are an objectively useful and practically indispensable tool for a comprehensive and systematic comparison of universities, and the results help in justifying our decisions, especially when we set up strategies and initiatives for improving the positions of international ranking. We also believe that none of the international rankings provide a view of the strength of any institutions. However, it evaluates the quality of education. It provides the public with the information of the performance of educational or of King Khalid University or another educational organizations. In August 2017, King Khalid University has established the international ranking units to align with the Saudi's visions that supports 5 universities to be on the top of 200 universities around the world by 2030. So our rectors and all the vice rectors in King Khalid University agreed to establish the unit, and it has a vision that states clearly King Khalid University becomes one of the top 200 international university by 2030. In all rankings, in each part of rankings, we have to be one of the top 200. So we took that as a goal. We aligned this goal with the KKU strategic vision, and we have some missions. We have some objectives that we do in our rankings. First of all is to publish awarenesses about international rankings between all the stakeholders inside and outside the universities, because as we all know, that's some people don't believe in international rankings, and unfortunately some of them work inside the university. So it's our job to just publish the awarenesses and to just convince them that how important it is to be recognized globally. Another object is to continue the connection with all the international rankings such as QS, Times, and others. We also established a database for all the indicators, for all the KPIs that for the King Khalid University and for international ranking. And also we analyze all the KPIs, we analyze our results year by year, and also compare it to others nationally and internationally. So we want to see where we are going, where we are now, where is our strength, where is our weaknesses. So we have our own, I can say that we have our own inside KKU, that we have our own ranking. We ranked ourselves before the QS or Times published their own result. Also, we established and we set up the strategy plans for our units and align it with each other departments in KKU. So we work together side by side, because it's our goal. It's not just for the unit by itself, it's for all. That's goal for our KKU. One of the practical areas of the international ranking units is to analyze the key factors for KKU based on the international ranking and provide the whole pictures for opportunities and risk that we may have faced. So after that, we can take another step. We can make our decision with a clear picture. Also, we enhance all the academics, faculties, and students to participate in all conference international rankings, either whether inside Saudi Arabia or outside Saudi Arabia. Also, we encourage them to publish studies about international ranking. Let me tell you the results that before and after the establishing the unit. Before 2018, you cannot see KKU in any international rankings except QS. However, our position in QS wasn't that good. In 2018, we jumped in QS to be one of the 500, in the top of the 500. We ranked 448. Since 2019 and after, you can see King Khalid University in Times educational rankings. You can see it in Shanghai. All the global ranking that will recognize, you will see King Khalid University. And we are still working. We haven't achieved our goals yet. Don't stop. We know that we got some great result. Let me tell you that King Khalid University is one of the 3 universities in Saudi Arabia that just have achieved all the SDGs, the 17 sustainable goals with the Times Higher Education. Most of the Saudi universities just achieved 4 to 7 goals. King Khalid University now is I can see the center for other universities in Saudi Arabia. We work together to establish. They ask us as just to take our advice and a suggestion and consultants to establish and build their office, their international office and units. So we are still working. We haven't stopped yet. We know that it's a long way. Sometimes it takes time to see your result, but we see our improvement in our academic programs, in our research publication numbers, in our exchange for students and for faculties, for also the international collaboration. Because I can conclude at the end that the participation in such external assessment procedure as the international ranking that held by authorized and international agency contribute not only to assessing the result achieved by the university, but also to information gathering for conducting comparative analysis regarding the result of university in order for determining the possibility for our growth. So thank you for having me tonight, and I really appreciate your invitation. I was so glad to hear from other leaders, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sami, for your speech. Now we will be with our last speaker, Dr. Mazen Balila. Dr. Mazen Balila, we know that LMI always have something new for us, and they focus to leadership development and other stuff. So now the time for you, you can speak. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, and good evening for everybody. Assalamu alaikum. Thanks for my colleague, Mr. Ayman Sihati from Marco Advance, for organizing and making the invitation of this important round table, I can say. I've enjoyed the speech of everybody, especially our guests from the international bodies like Mr. Dr. Ashwan Ferdinand and also Mr. Nick Davis. We have gone with them thoroughly to know the criteria of the ranking, international ranking, and I can say it's very comprehensive criteria and very fair. So this which make them very unique and trustworthy to everybody in the academic sector. So thank you for them. And also I'd like to thank my colleagues and friends from the Saudi universities, Prof. Mirzan from King Khalid University and Dr. Khalid University. I'd like to share my slides with you. I hope you can see it. Yes, we are in LMI. I'm representing LMI JCC, the Leadership Management International, to represent a new program which covers the academic leadership development. And I think Dr. Ashwan and also Mr. Nick Davis mentioned in their presentation the importance of the academic leadership in achieving more success and more advancement in the ranking system, because they can make the engagement and so on. And also they can focus and they know how to set goals. So in our program is not a training program, it's not an educational program. It's really about coaching and on-job consultation. So these are the topics that we are going to cover with our participants in this program, like the importance of productivity, developing the academic leadership in the university environment, and choosing the right people, and what are the benefits they're going to get, and changing their attitude. So this is some typical lessons that we cover in this program, the academic leadership development. We call it ALD. It's in Arabic and also it is in English available. First lesson is we are talking about successful leaders are made, not born, because many people think that if they are not born as leaders, they cannot perform well or they cannot make achievements. So in this lesson, which will take about a week, on-job consultation, we make sure that we change the orientation and the attitude of their thinking to accept the idea that leadership can be developed. So whatever they have potential leadership within themselves will be explored and they will be more successful. Then in other chapters, we talk about communication, delegation, but one of the most interesting lessons is the motivation of the faculty to produce. Yeah, the materialistic or the to the two types of motivation, through fear or through money or bonuses. They are accepted, but they are not permanent with everybody. We are trying to build the change of attitude to make the motivation comes from inside to outside. And this is what I like the example mentioned by Mr. Nick Davis about KAU, King Abdulaziz University, because I know the president there who has started this process, Prof. Osama Tayyib. He told me that the most successful tool he has used to promote the university is the motivation. He was able to make everybody feel that he is the president of the university. He's in charge of getting the goals and the success. He is accountable to reach the strategic goal of the university. And I think he did a great job because the president came after him, followed the same path, and they continued at the same success to be the right model for all the Arab and Saudi universities. In the last chapter or the last lesson, this program, by the way, takes 8 weeks to complete. In the 8th week, we are talking about developing academic leaders. And I like to thank both Dr. Ashwan and Nick Davis for mentioning many of the topics that I'm going to mention here, like the how the academic leaders can succeed in their role is first by focusing on the research work, how they can how they can lead their institutes and organizations to be research-oriented university, and to reach to the highly cited publication worldwide. What are the procedures and what are the motivation and what are the channels available to them? The second thing is the improving their teaching and improving the quality of the procedure they are giving to their students, and how their students can get jobs easily, and how they can change their curriculum and their programs to match the needs of the private sector and the public sector. So those graduates can find jobs easily, and they can highly paid after they have graduated. So all of this will be covered in the continuous development of their teachers to be, or their faculty to be better performance at classroom, and to enhance their programs and curriculums to meet the standards of the global needs. The third thing, they have to develop the social responsibilities and the stewardship towards the society they are living. The communication skills is one of the most important quality that those leaders should have, in order that they can communicate their strategic leadership to their team and to their staff, and to make sure that everybody dealing with the society knows exactly what are the goals and what are the strategic plan of that university. Then development of their team members, because if the members are not developed well and according to the standard which we need for accreditation, they cannot perform well and they cannot reach high in their ranking. So I thank Dr. Bardisi, Suzanne, and also Professor Mirzan, and also Dr. Sami for mentioning the importance of the accreditation and the quality of learning at each university, in order to get the higher rank eventually, or as a reflection of getting this quality up. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope that we can have a chance to develop more leaders, academic leaders at the university, in order they can reach to a better ranking worldwide. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mazen. Now we will take a few minutes if anyone here want to ask any question for any of our speakers. So if anyone have any question, please raise hand, so we'll give you the mic to ask your question and mention which speaker you want to ask him. So please, if anyone have any question.
Actually, Mr. Ayman, I like to hear a comment from Dr. Ashwan and also Mr. Nick Davis about what they have heard from our side, from our colleagues from the Saudi University.
All right. So let's start with Dr. Ashwan. Now you hear from the other speakers, and of course they share many ideas. So if you can reflect your opinion and idea about what you hear from our speakers.
Thank you so much, Ayman. And I think there's one aspect which resonates with every speaker, is that the rankings are the outcome of the good best practices within the institution. So I know maybe 10 years ago, it was different, where people were looking at the rankings first and then putting the strategy in place. But I think, accreditation, it's such a fundamental job for a university to get its programs benchmarked internationally. So program level accreditation is something which institutions should be looking at, because getting them right at the program level then, of course, feeds it back into the university as a whole. So I think when you talk of quality, we can be talking of various challenges throughout the world, but it speaks the same language at the end, is that everybody wants to do better, wants to use global benchmarks. And an outcome of that would perhaps be, any rankings with QS, Times Higher Education, or the Shanghai. The more sophisticated you are with your research, perhaps, and if you're looking at really getting on with being a very strong postgraduate school, maybe something to do with the Shanghai ranking might be something to start looking at. But definitely, the ranking methodologies are changing. QS is looking to introduce new indicators as well. So looking at the rankings and preparing the strategy is not the way to go, but the other way around. And I think leaders are putting those right fundamental blocks on the long-term strategic plan is something which I think everyone has spoken about. So I think we are on the same page, which is really great to know.
Thank you, Dr. Ashwin. I believe now there is a question from Professor Marzan. So
yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much for this great, workshop. I would like to ask those guys, our friends there, is there anything new about, Arabic publications? Because as you know, Saudi Arabia, most of our programs are in Arabic, and I know this is an old issue and still a problem for a lot of, Saudi university publication in Arabic, and how can we manage and solve this problem? For Ashwin and Nicholas, is there anything new regarding this issue?
Okay, I'll just be very quick on this. And I think we've seen Elsevier, and it's great that Elsevier now is used by both QS and THE, so you don't need to focus your efforts on different databases. Now, for Elsevier, they are working very strongly in the region to actually get your various journals, which are in Arabic, translated, at least the abstract, translated into English. So I think we've seen over 300 such journals which are indexed, increasing. And I think every day, and is if you have a journal in university, now reach out to Scopus, Elsevier, and try to get the index, because it's a while, but definitely it's a worthwhile thing to do. And you also are able to preserve Arabic text, also able to preserve the context of what you're writing is. If institutions and editors try to be a good idea, reach out to Amar Salama, the Secretary General, and his Vice Secretary General as well, to check out how through the association you can get your journals as well indexed into their program which they have for Arab institutions.
I'd echo Ashwin's comments there, particularly strong communications with Elsevier, absolutely vital to ensure that those publications are being recognised. The only piece that I'd add is to say, with our regional rankings, we are always looking at and considering secondary bibliometric data sources. It's something we were looking at for the Arab rankings last year, something we're considering this year, and as soon as we feel that there is a comprehensive enough database for us to use in addition to Elsevier, or perhaps being subsumed into it in some way, then we will do so, because we recognise the importance of capturing the output in that language.
Mr. Nick, we want to hear your reflection about what you hear here during this roundtable and the idea that other participants share with us.
I think it was really wonderful to hear, and I think summarized perfectly by Dr. Susan. I think Dr. Suzanne, even the way in which rankings and accreditation go hand in hand is vital. The only thing I would ask of all of the participants here is to think of rankings throughout your institutional journey. Don't think of them as something that happens once a year. I think the universities who are performing best within the rankings are those that are considering their performance at a granular level, at a subject level, and hopefully the analysis that they're doing now with the data that sits behind the rankings is actually helping them to identify areas of work they would need to conduct prior to the start of the accreditation process. So I think there's quite a fluid intermingling of both processes. I think yes, our speakers have touched on that very well.
Thank you. Dr. أستاذ أيمن, لو تسمح لي, يعني we have the honor to have the Deputy Rector of University of Al-Qura with us, Prof. Ali Al-Shari, and he's raising his hand. We might, if you don't mind, please allow him to interfere and talk, please.
Mr. Professor Ali, you can ask your question, please.
شكرا, الله يعطيكم العافية. I would like to thank you, LMI, for this talk and for all the previous talks they have done. They invited very distinguished speakers, very important topics. Personally, I benefited from this talk. And I thank Dr. Mazin for every effort he has been doing to develop the leadership skills of all the academics around the kingdom. My question, development and quality. Dr. Mohammed Zahrani is with us in this talk. We are responsible for the ranking, for the quality issues in the university. Sometimes we get into an argument that the ranking is just playing with numbers and will not affect effectively, or let's say positively, or let's say clearly in the quality of the education or the research in the university. I would like my friends who from the other universities, how ranking, how the caring for the ranking itself as a process, as KPIs, helps them to motivate the researchers, the professors in the university to work hard in publication, in research, to work hard in terms of every KPIs is concerned with the ranking. And also from our friends from Times and QS, if you could give us real examples or something we could rely on, how the ranking helps the universities to improve their quality of teaching, their quality of research, or their quality of serving the community. Thanks for giving me this chance to ask the question. I'm sorry for talking too much.
Thank you, Dr. Ali. We will take short answer from Mr. Nick and short answer from Dr. Ashwan. So can you start, Mr. Nick?
Thank you, Armin. Thank you, Doctor, for the question. In short, I think we've heard today the concept that perhaps the rankings as they stand at the moment are slightly outdated, or perhaps coming so. And I think we have seen with the launch of the impact rankings, the difference that rankings can have for institutions when they are mission-led, and the way in which we've enabled universities to recognize top quality work in the field of sustainability within these rankings. So I think that is the next step for us as ranking organizations, to work out how we can do that within our world university rankings, within the field of research. I think we're providing a framework at the moment, but it's not necessarily driving towards the mission of universities. So that's what will be coming out of the WASH in next year's methodology update.
Yeah.
So when we look at institutions, and I think with the first edition of the World University Rankings had 100 universities ranked, and then they gradually grew and grew and grew. And when we look at the addition of institutions coming in from developing regions, and especially from Asia, we can see several institutions actually going there in not just the top 100, but the top 20. And a classic example is Singapore, a young country with an institution like NTU, who's 25 years of age, but they are ranked in the top 20 of the QS World University Ranking. Now, of course, the warning is that rankings cannot, you cannot have your strategies around ranking, but to see where you're going, again, I have to use the word, the barometer or the thermometer, to see how well or are you on the right track or not as you progress ahead. And I think rankings play that role. We can look at institutions in the kingdom at the same time. We're looking at the top, the 3-4 institutions, our very own. We have institutions here today. Your own institution, Professor Ali, as well. I think it provides a barometer of where you want to go and puts you in the right direction. But again, the ranking should not become the driving force of how the strategies are made. And when we compare that to places in Asia or even now in Latin America, we can see that the government is using it as some kind of an oversight of how the economy is progressing. But of course, I think the long-term vision would be to see that how the rankings develop to capture the changing dynamics. And that's what QS is doing at the moment. We are looking at environment, sustainability, and governance to be included as a layer on the QS World University Ranking. That's the important mission of the institution. We are looking at including indicators like International Research Network to see how partnerships, not just on a global level, but also at the regional level come into play. So again, things are changing, and I think we will see the rankings evolve over a period of time. But the warning is that ranking should become the outcome, not the goal of what institutions are planning to do. And I think if institutions are using and look at rankings and then saying, well, how can I develop my strategy? That is perhaps not the best thing for institution to do, especially in the current age where we are, where there's a different definition of excellence and performance improvement.
Thank you, Dr. Ashwin. Thank you, Mr. Nick. Thank you for all speakers from all Saudi universities that participate with us. Now it's the end of our event, and I believe there is a closing speech from Dr. Mazen, short closing speech, and we will end this event.
Thank you, Mr. Ayman, for organizing and taking the questions and the discussion. Thank you for our guests for participating with us. It was a very informative and enriching roundtable. I hope the recording will be sent to everybody to see the right presentation and the right wordings. And I hope we can go from there to better performance for also the universities. And I might ask Mr. Ayman next time, please bring Shanghai University ranking with you. Goodbye.
I hope so. I hope so. Thank you.